Well, let's get started. What do you say? This is such an incredibly exciting week for me and for our family. We have always loved Southern Utah. We have a few shirt-tail relatives around here. We won't tell you who they are because I'd like to protect them. But my wife Kathy and our 15-year-old daughter Naomi have moved in, and we have boxes everywhere. I thought this was a university event instead of a church event. There's one brave person on the front row. The back row is completely full. Anyway, we're thrilled to be here. And the last 2 days have been very enjoyable. Everyone's been so polite. I'm sure that will continue forever, right? I think that getting a new president is more about thinking through a vision of a university than it is creating a new one. I think that the best vision for a university exists here and isn't planted by somebody that's new. And so in light of that, let me give you one example of how this can be described. Last night I had a great opportunity to visit with a whole bunch of journalist students, and they kind of started grilling me with all kinds of questions, and I kept trying to get them on what my favorite color is and what my favorite hike in Zion Canyon is. But they wanted to know what my top 3 priorities would be as the president of Southern Utah. And I tried to explain to them that this university is kind of run in a shared governance kind of a world. And the emphasis there is shared. So it's not about my vision or my ideas to make this a better place. It's about helping facilitate a great conversation, and then together coming up with a refinement of the vision or more energy for the vision that's here, or whatever it might be. So I'm excited to be a part of this, and I just want to let you know that the priority for me is the conversation over the next weeks and months. We've decided that to begin out my time, that we'll start with a 100-day listening tour. Kicked off yesterday, but we didn't tell anybody till today because there wasn't anybody to tell yesterday. But we thought that in this forum, this would be the right time to kind of announce that. So we have a blog. I love the quote, "Never have so many people written so much to so few." Blogging. But anyway, the point of the blog is to kind of help you know what I'm doing and who I'm listening to and what I'm learning and what I'm discovering about what is so great about this institution, so that you just kind of have some sense about it. I've told them all that they can follow me around and take some pictures as long as I'm not the focus point of every picture, because that's uncomfortable to me. The point is not the new president. The point is the university at a period of time. And the point is you, and the point is what this shared vision is that makes this place such a great university. I believe that. I believe that this is the very best place for a student to get a bachelor's degree in Utah. I just am absolutely convinced of that. And we have some wonderful master's degree programs as well. I've been asked to apply to a variety of positions over the last few years, different universities. I turned them all down. I wasn't interested. But when somebody started pressing me to apply here, I was immediately interested because of the quality of the place and the people and the community and the environment around it. It's just an ideal place to learn, to grow, and if it's a good place for students to learn and grow, it's a good place for me to learn and grow. Along with the rest of you. So the point of my start is to spend the next 100 days focusing between emails and contracts and and legislature and all those kinds of things, but to focus as much time as possible into listening. And so yesterday was the first day of this, and I spent the morning with your provost and then spent a couple hours with Dean's Council, which kept me longer than I had planned because it was so interesting, honestly. I didn't just say that. It was interesting. Met with Senator Vickers. Just a variety of things. It was really a nice day. You'll see a summary of that on this blog, 100-Day Listening Tour. And anyway, if it starts to bore you, that's fine. It would me. But I really want you to know what I'm doing and what I'm learning. So that's the point of all that. I'd like to, I think I saw someone come in. Did I see Kathy? Yes. Kathy, would you come up for a second? I just wanted to introduce you to my wife, Kathy. And then I'll give you just a little bit of an introduction about me, and then we'll open up some questions. This is Kathy, my better half. Do you want to just say hello or something? I don't want to rip this off, but I think that mic works. So, this one? This is better. Okay.
Okay, first, I apologize for my tardiness. We have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school, and it's been a little bit of an emotional move for her, and she needed to chat a little bit after school when I picked her up. So please don't mark me tardy. I'll be better next time. Anyway, we are just delighted to be here. We've heard, I mentioned this before, but we've heard nothing but good about Cedar City and about SUU. Everyone I talk to loves having their children here, or if they graduated from here, loved what they learned. They have high regard for staff and professors both, and I'm just really excited to be a part of that. It's got a neat feel in this campus. You can tell just as you walk around. We've been trying to talk our third daughter into transferring here from Snow College, and we were visiting with some of the student leaders and just said, okay, your job is to convince her to come. And one of the student leaders said something that I thought was perfect and worked for me. He said, the school sells itself. Have her come down, walk around, meet with the advisors, meet with some of the faculty, and they'll win her over. And I believe that because that's what I felt when I came and took a tour before, well, I guess it was during the interview process. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share with you, just that we're delighted to be here and to be part of this, and I can't wait to get to know you. Thank you so much.
No, you can go sit down. If I was to create a theme, at least a theme for my focus over the next few months, or maybe my entire time at Southern Utah, the theme I think would probably be, or is, it's all about the student. And it's intentional when I say the student, because it's the focus on an individual rather than a group. You can easily create a lot of data to show how students are succeeding and then forget about the students that aren't succeeding or those students that need a little extra care. But everything that we do is really about the student. And so that's kind of going to be a little bit my focus. Well, let me tell you, I mentioned that before I forget. Let me tell you just a little bit about my background so that you know. When I come around visiting, I hope to learn about your backgrounds too, so that we can get to know each other better. I grew up in an academic home. My dad was an electrical engineering faculty member and senior research scientist in Space Dynamics Laboratories in Logan, Utah. I grew up thinking that he was a genius. I later discovered that he was just an average person who worked hard. He had to take college algebra twice before he thought he started to understand it, but was able to get a PhD in electrical engineering, a very prolific writer, and a scientist that I have all of his books, and it's really kind of fun. But that's the environment I grew up in, and he told me that I had a lot of career choices as long as it involved going to college, which was good. He was the hardest working person I knew. He would come home. We would get up and have breakfast together, and he would go home. He would go to work at 8 o'clock and come home at the end of the day, and we'd have dinner, and then he'd go into his office and grade papers or prepare lectures for the next day or work on his book or something like that. But I didn't know anybody that didn't work harder than him. We would have students at our house for Thanksgiving and other times. He spent a lot of time with international students who were working on their doctorate degrees in engineering. And that was just the environment I was in. I have an older brother that's an electrical engineer and another older brother that's a faculty member in sociology at the University of Emporia in Kansas. Another brother that works at Utah State University in Space Dynamics Laboratory. It was just kind of our environment. My sister didn't graduate, but she's engaged right now in a bachelor's degree program to get a bachelor's degree of music. So we ranged from, my bachelor's degree was in philosophy and economics, two majors. From that to sociology, engineering, music, pretty much covered the spectrum. As you can imagine, my father, the engineer, was a little disappointed in me in going out in philosophy, but it was really a lot of fun. Anyway, after graduating from Utah State University, I went to the University of Utah, attended law school. On completion of that, went back and accepted a job in Logan. Within about a week of starting my employment there, I went up to USU and said, I just want to be engaged at the university. Is there something I can do? And the student body officers and I worked out a deal that I went up one night a week and volunteered some time answering legal questions of students. That continued on for 13 years of what do I do with my landlord, or how do I deal with this question or this problem? And that was a really enjoyable experience for me. And it got me involved in student government, or kept me involved in student government as long as I could. I had originally been the student body president and had a wonderful relationship with the university president at the time. And that really was one of the big motivators for me to try to stay engaged. I ended up teaching a variety of classes as an adjunct faculty member. The first one was a series of classes on school law in the education department. It was to master's degree students. And then I taught in the political science department, law and politics, and taught in the philosophy department, ethics courses. For the last several years, I've been teaching American national government, which is so much fun for me. We don't have a text. I didn't have a textbook. I just used original source documents, and we read through old letters and speeches and things, and had a great time. After about 3 years out of law school, I was appointed to be a member of the Board of Trustees for Snow College, and served in that role for 12 years. I served 1 year as a member of the Board of Regents. That was as a student appointee. And then I ran for the Utah legislature and served 2 terms on the Higher Education Appropriations Committee. So I think and then the last 6.5 years as the president of Snow College. I think that what it's given me is a broad understanding of higher education. I have a lot to learn. Don't assume that I think I know half of what I need to know. But I think I have a pretty broad basis of what you do and what I need to do to help support that, both from the legislative side, the governance side as a regent and as a member of a board of trustees, from an adjunct faculty member, which is not the same as being a full-time faculty member, but as being surrounded by family members who are full-time and having grown up with a great deal of respect for what they do and how hard they work. My first job in higher ed was as a custodian, and that was a nice job for me. It helped get me through college and helped me learn how to work. Anyway, I think that's kind of a basic rundown of my history. And with that, I think I've rambled on longer than I probably should have. Dean, why don't you, I think that you know that in inviting you here, we asked for questions. And so there's a handful of questions I think that Dean will just take it over from here.
Thank you, President. Thanks to everyone who sent in questions. I know a lot of people emailed questions in who could not be here today. They're teaching class, their prior engagements, appointments, whatever, and we appreciate those. And some of you who just didn't want to get in front of a microphone. So we have them here, and we'll just run down a list, but it will still be open for your questions here as well. Question number 1, President. What will you do to help SUU obtain greater funding from the state legislature? What are your feelings on compensation for the staff and your top priorities that you might care to push for Southern Utah University?
That's about 3 questions. I'll probably forget the second one by the time I'm done with the first one. There's one of the things, in terms of getting funding for the university, one of the challenges that we have is that our number one donor, of course, is the legislature. They aren't increasing their donations at the rate we would like, but they're still the number one donor to us. And if you look at the governor has learned from, and the Board of Regents, but he's learned from Georgetown Center for Education and Policy. I think I've said that group wrong, but it's Georgetown University. That by the year 2020, there needs to be at least 66% of Utahns with a post-high school certificate or degree. And if we haven't reached that goal by 2020, then we're going to start losing out on our economic momentum that this state has. And so based on that, the governor's number 1, number 2, number 3, number 10 priority for higher education is numbers. It's moving the state from where we're at to 66%, and that's going to require the addition of more than 100,000 new students moving through the system and getting their degrees, everything from a certificate all the way up to a doctor's degree. And that's where his energy is completely focused. The legislature's energy is completely focused on that as well, in reaching that goal. They're not telling us what degrees. You know, that people still have their choices of how to experience their time in a university, but we need to reach that goal. What that means to us is, from the governor, the legislature, and the Board of Regents, that if we want funding from them and support from them, we have to buy into their overall goal, which is reaching 66% of the state of Utah adults having a post-high school certificate or degree. And so we have to be part of that, and we have to grow. So I think that that's the first response I would give to that question, is that we need to grow. That doesn't mean that we need to grow the fastest of any institution in the system, but we have to grow enough that the governor and the legislature see us as partners in the statewide strategic plan and the economic vitality of the state. So that's the most critical piece of it. They're not terribly interested in having us say we want money to become a better quality school. That doesn't meet that strategic initiative of theirs. They just simply assume that we're smart enough to figure out quality, and that we can do that, and we can continually become a better school, but they don't have money to help us do that. So there will be teeny pieces of money perhaps on the margins for us to help build quality, but the bulk of it, and I think we'll see that during this coming session. If you've seen the Regents' priority list and the governor's list and everything else, what you'll see is all the money is going to growth in numbers. So that's the main part of that. Our priority has been, despite the numbers, despite how many students can move through the system, I believe that my colleagues of the other presidents in this system, our number one goal is compensation. It's been too long since the time that we've had reasonable compensation from the legislature to help us. And I know here that there's been some internal reallocations or focus on trying to get money for compensation, but it's not been enough. That's true everywhere in the system, and so we're all together on that. That's something that's really important. Particularly in this session when there are no specific initiatives that are likely to succeed for SUU. That's what I'll be talking about the whole time is compensation, the needs of all of you in being equitable in what you're paid. Did I answer all those questions? Okay.
Okay, it's well known, and maybe the hottest topic on the grapevine on campus, that while you were at Snow College, you made major budget cuts to people and programs. What can we expect from you here at SUU?
That doesn't sound like what's your favorite color or favorite hike in Zion Canyon. No, I'm glad that question is raised. That Snow College is an interesting place. One of my goals here is to never say, or to very rarely say, well, at Snow College we did, because this is such a different place. It's just simply not the same. Snow College and SUU are both in rural Utah, both far removed from the Wasatch Front. There are some similarities, but the differences are vast as well. This gives me a chance to tell you one of the differences. One of the differences is that there is really not much of an academic infrastructure at Snow College. There's a president, there's a vice president, and then there's faculty. That's basically all it is. There are deans, but deans are elected by the faculty to serve for a limited period of time, continuing to teach, but having a little bit of a release to be responsible for a division, and then they rotate right back into the faculty. So in 2008, when the budget cuts started coming at us, and we saw the first wave of this, we knew was going to be at least 10%. We set our sights at 8, hoping it wouldn't grow beyond that, but it grew a lot further than that. Without an infrastructure built so that I could just say, deans, take care of this, we had to decide how in the world we were going to go about the budget cut. So I sat down in Dean's Council and with the Faculty Senate and said, what do you want to do? The deans said to me, well, we're not going to do it. And you can imagine why they would say that. Because I'm an elected dean who serves for a limited period of time, and then I'm rotating back into the faculty. And so if I do the cut, they're going to hate me. I'd rather they hated you. So okay, that's fine. Based on the direction of the deans and in consultation with the Faculty Senate, they asked me to go about the process of coming back to them with proposals on exactly what we would do. And so I went and sat down with each dean privately and said, what do we need to do in your division? And in some divisions, there were cuts. In some divisions, there were no cuts at all. We didn't cut any department budgets, operating budgets. We thought they were all tight enough that we weren't going to cut those. We decided that there were growing areas of campus, that the student body was starting to grow, and we needed that tuition money to get through the recession. So we were investing money in some departments. We were adding math instructors and English instructors at the same time that we were trying to do an 8% budget cut. I don't believe in across-the-board cuts. I don't think they're helpful. I don't believe in simply not filling vacant positions. I don't think that's helpful. I think that you really have to take a strategic look at how you go about adjusting your budgets to take care of its greatest needs. And our goal was, from the start, we don't want any student to know that there has actually been a cut. So how are we going to do this? And so we would look at departments and what's happening in enrollments. And I met with all of the division deans. And I would sit down with one dean and he would say, well, in my division, I think this is where you need to make a cut. But please don't tell anybody I told you that, because I don't want anybody to hate me. And that was okay. And we've honored all those conversations. But they were great supporters and helpers. We worked through the budget cuts in that year and the next year and the year following. The deepest cuts that we faced were in the career and technical education programs. And the reason why there were more deeply cuts there is because, boy, that didn't sound like good English, did it? The reason why we had more cuts there was we have a branch campus in Richfield that had been part of the high school system and then became a branch campus of Snow College. And that started out as what I would describe as a career exploration tech center, and had changed to a career preparation college center. And they had a hard time making that transition. There was one program, as an example, that I went back and personally called every single person I could find who had graduated from that program, because I wanted to know for myself if it was a successful program or not, so that I could validate my assumptions. And I couldn't find a single student in 5 years who had a job in that area. And so that was a program that we determined to close. But anyway, that was the process of what happened and how we got to where we were. Everything was talked about with dean. What I found was, particularly in a small town, and I'm assuming that it'll be similar here, but maybe not quite the same, is that you can talk to the dean of one division and come together with a nice plan for that division and talk to the department and work through all of the issues and come with a nice, all things considered, as nice as you get solution. But then find out that in other departments, in other divisions, that people are angry. And that's when I learned that genealogy and family history is an important thing to study. Because a brother-in-law who knew nothing about what was going on would be the most angry of all, and that person wasn't even in the department. But what I hope that you're gathering is that I believe that those kinds of decisions are institution-wide decisions, that they need to be fully vetted and full conversation. Expectations need to be clear, and everybody needs to know what they're being measured by. But here, I can't imagine that same scenario occurring, because you have a great group of deans, and they're a professional staff of deans who can manage their divisions. Fortunately, I don't think we'll be running into this problem, because we're not going to have another recession for a while. They do seem to keep coming. You know, every 7 to 10 years, there's some kind of a dip in higher education, and we just learn to deal with that. But I don't think we'll see another one as bad as the one we just went through. It was particularly difficult for Snow College because of how small they are. Those budgets are very important, but maybe that gives you a feel of my philosophy about all of that.
SUU has raised tuition significantly in the past few years, which has helped fund new positions and given faculty and staff salary increases. However, I also hear a lot of people complain about our cost of tuition compared to other schools. What is your opinion on the cost of tuition at SUU?
We've hit the ceiling, if not hit it hard. It's kind of an expensive school. This is, you probably know this. I don't need to tell you all these things, but this is the most expensive school in Utah. The burden of coming here is greater than anywhere else. For 10 to 12 credits, the tuition is actually higher here than any other institution. It's more expensive to be a part-time student here than it is to be a part-time student at the University of Utah. So that's a little expensive. You add to that the reality that last fall, only 18% of the freshman class is from Iron County. So 82% of the students that attend Southern Utah University have to move here. And this isn't the place where you can find jobs as easily as other places. So in order for Southern Utah University to grow, we have to address this issue of how do you motivate a student living in Utah County or Salt Lake County to accept the fact that they're going to maybe give up a part-time job that they'll not be able to get here and move here and pay tuition that's comparable, plus moving out of their parents' basement. Now they have to add to that the cost of housing. And the burden to attend this institution is high. So I think that we're there. It's about, I can't remember the exact number, but it's about $750 a semester more than Dixie. It's about $500 a semester more than between $400 and $500 more than Weber or Utah Valley University. I think the value is there. I believe that this is a better quality education. I don't think there's any question about that. All you have to do is sit in those big auditorium-sized classrooms at certain other places, or try to fight your way through the halls of some of the schools that are growing too fast to recognize this is clearly a new, different place. But it's hard to take a picture of that up to Salt Lake County or to Utah County and say, I want to draw a picture for you of what the difference is between attending Utah Valley University and Southern Utah University, because most high school seniors don't get it. Until they've been cared for in an environment like this, they don't know what the difference is between that and a place that they grew up thinking was a higher status place. I spoke with, we had some faculty members from one of the research universities in Utah come down and speak with us and said, and I'm not sure if this was an exaggeration or accurate or what it was, but this is what faculty from this university said. There are only two, but I'm not telling you which one. Said, you don't meet a real faculty member until you're a junior, because the graduate student assistants are doing all of the general education, all the freshman and sophomore classes. Well, this is clearly a better experience. Clearly a better experience. The interim president at Snow College that's taking my place over the next while said that he took a tour of the university that he just came from, and the ambassadors walked them around and said, here is the 1,000-seat auditorium that you'll take your political science class in, and here is the 700-seat auditorium you're going to take your history class in. And he was shocked, because even working at that university, he didn't realize the experience that undergraduate students were getting. And he works there. He didn't know the experience. Certainly parents and students from across the state don't get it either. So we need to find a way to really communicate that clearly. But the bottom line is that the cost is, we're probably hitting the roof on tuition for now. Did that take too long? Yeah. I'll try to be quicker.
Just so you know, these questions were prioritized in order by the number of people who asked them, and all of these have been asked by multiple people, compiled. So question number 4. Over the last several years, the campus has invested much energy into the EDGE program. Although not without its challenges, I believe in the merits it offers both students and faculty. What, if any, plans do you have for the EDGE program at SUU?
Let me separate that into two different questions. The first one is experiential learning, which I think we all agree is the only way to learn. It's the difference between sitting in a classroom and learning about dance and actually dancing. The dancing part is the experience part. And creating a really exciting experiential set of programs or program here, I think, is spectacular. There's clearly some questions in students' minds about EDGE. That's the second question, I think. Experiential learning is one, and second is the application of that here in the EDGE program. And students need to understand, or we need to do a better job helping them enjoy it. This is something that really should draw students, and we can find a way to help them with that. But the ultimate piece of that question is, what am I going to do with EDGE? I think that's what you ended it with. If I can answer the question from that context, this is a shared governance institution. I don't do things with EDGE. I mean, I think I'll engage in discussions. I think I'll challenge. I hope that you all challenge me. And I hope you're comfortable if I challenge you. I've had untold numbers of students who've expressed frustration with EDGE. And to some degree, as I try to advocate for students and advocate for faculty and advocate for staff, I can have a conversation with students about the value in it, and that they need to find a way to find that value. And in like manner, I think it's equally productive and appropriate for me to challenge faculty with how can we make this so that students appreciate it more, understand it, and have a better experience with it. So, but anyway, I think that's the answer, is that we operate in a shared governance world, and I don't dictate curriculum. So the answer is, I hope I can help facilitate conversation and improvements as every program continues to evolve. I don't think we've ever had a program in the history of the world that rolled out perfect when it started, so nobody should be defensive or concerned about whether it needs some tinkering.
Okay, thank you.
That's
all right. I have one more question on my list before we open it up to you to ask questions, for a couple of reasons. One, because we invited you to come with questions, and two, because I'm not sure it's good for job security for me to stand here and grill the president under bright lights with tough questions. So please have a question ready. We have two people with microphones that'll come to you if you raise your hand or stand up, and we'd love to get your questions. So with that said, here we go.
Can I just answer the question you just posed?
Yes, please.
About your job security. No, this is an opportunity for me to say something. The people that I work with learn that what I value is conversation and dialogue and challenge. It is not some, I'm a philosopher. I like to say I grew up the son of a scientist, majored in philosophy, and went to law school. If I'm not someone that you can feel comfortable saying, hey, stupid, you're going in the wrong direction, or can we talk about this one more time, then there's nobody that you can have those kind of conversations with. I'm hardwired for discussion. And if you want me to respect you, I mean genuinely respect you, the way to win that respect is to say in a polite way, can we re-talk this through? Because what you're telling me is that you have enough confidence in me as a person that I'm not going to get defensive. And that you have enough confidence in me that I'm not going to retaliate. And I respect that enormously. So I hope that you feel comfortable saying at any time, I have a hard question for you. So anyway, I couldn't help but wander off on that. This is a good-sized university, but it's still small enough that you should feel comfortable sending an email to me or grabbing me in the hall or doing something that says, can we talk about something? Because that's what I love. That's what I value. That's what's so good about a university is conversation. So I'm not insecure. And yes, throw me another hard question.
President, I have a hard question for you. Our mission statement says, SUU is the state's designated liberal arts and sciences university. There's confusion on campus and in the community about what that means. What does it mean to you, and what is the future of that designation?
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me begin this with, humor can sometimes get you in trouble. And I have to choose whether I live in a scripted world or the real world. And the real world can be troublesome. So I'm having this conversation about liberal arts, and I make this flippant comment you may have read in the Deseret News about SUU is not just a place where Democrats hang out throwing pots. I really thought that was funny. Because I'm a Republican, and I've been an elected Republican, and I grew up in a Republican home, but I was making fun of Republicans. That I wasn't making fun of artists or Democrats. I guess I should never tell a joke until someone knows me well enough to have a context, because you can ask my wife. We've been married a long time, and she still sometimes thinks, okay, that humor is not necessarily on my level. But I was really making fun of people who don't know what the word liberal means or the word arts means. I wasn't trying to make fun of ceramists or Democrats, because when I go to the legislature, they're my best friends. I mean, the Democrats have a tendency to be the most supportive of higher education, and so that, anyway, I'm straying a little bit from the question, but it's an opportunity for me to say, the first faculty member that I sat down with was our faculty member, Susan Harris, who's a ceramist, and it was a delightful conversation. She was so kind to me that to tell me that she wasn't offended by that statement, but anyway. But I have received calls from the chair of the Democrat Party, who was madder than heck, and the local Democrat Party was furious. But Jim and I had a great chat about it, and at the end of it, he said, "Oh, I get exactly what you're saying. That's fine. I understand. I'll rip up my letter to the editor that I was going to send, saying how much you had disrespected Democrats in Utah." The point is that Utahns don't know what the word arts means, and they don't know what the word liberal means. And sometimes we don't know what those words mean. Liberal art, I'm actually attending a liberal arts university in Ohio. It's a hobby. I'll take a week or two in summer as vacation and go back there and spend a week or two of intensive American national government classes. It's just exciting to me. I just love it. It's like going on a backpacking trip, only with my brain, and it's really, really a lot of fun. But if I'm in Ohio and I say to them, I'm going to liberal arts school, everybody says, wow, that is so cool. But if you're in Utah and you say, I'm going to liberal arts school, people say, what are you doing? That's kind of weird. Do we have liberals in Utah? And you say, you don't understand what the word means. The word liberal is a broad, expansive experience. So I think the real point of being a designated liberal arts and sciences university is, which of course happened before I came, so I think I know the purpose of it. The purpose was to say, frankly, candidly, unabashedly, this is a better place to get an education than the 3 regional universities. And we don't want to be one of the 4 regional universities. We see ourselves as a step above the 3 regionals. How do we communicate that? How do we clearly say that? Because we don't want to be in a race with them, because we're not. We're better than them. And that's the designation that the state has given us at the request of the university, and people outside of Utah understand it. People inside of Utah don't necessarily understand it. My commitment is that I don't see us as being equals with the other 3 universities. I see us genuinely as having a mission that's a step above. It's not limited to a region. It's the statewide. We have something to offer that's incredible. And I hope that we can come up with, without erasing that designation, but that we can come up with something that we can put on a billboard, or that we can put into an elevator speech, something that's really brief and quick, and so that we don't have to explain what we're meaning, so that parents and students and everybody else can get the idea of what we're about, what we're striving for. And so I think that's really the way I would answer that question that I could have answered in a lot less time. But I wanted to tell you the story about the pots. If you ever read something that I said in the paper and you think and you look at it and you say, wow, that's kind of interesting, I hope that you'll do what Dean Mendini did and sent me an email and said, you know what, some people are confused by that statement. Would you help us clarify that? Oh, thank you very much. I will consider you a friend if you're brave enough to do that.
Ron, where's Ron? Back in the back, and Jacob is right here. They both have microphones, and they would love to have you raise your hand. There's one right there. Let's have you go ahead and ask the president some questions.
By the way, while they're doing that, I have a daughter-in-law that's a professional artist. I have a son that's a professional liberal. I'm a philosophy major. I get this concept of liberal arts. My major was philosophy. And I have used what I gained from my experience as a philosophy major my entire life. I have never not felt that it was an enormous preparation for my life.
President Wyatt, I know we're all dying to know, what is your favorite hike in Zion?
Well, it's a hard one to answer because they're all so different. But if you judge it based on a quantitative analysis, I think I'd have to say it would be Angel's Landing because that's the one that I've done the most. But I love the subway and I love the Narrows, but I'm not going to do it again. We've done that a few times. Kathy and I did it as an overnight hike, and if I want to spend the afternoon with bowling balls, I'll just go bowling. But I can't think of a hike I don't love in Zion. Thanks for the question. It's a great question. My favorite color is red, by the way.
Don't be shy. Raise your hand if you'd like a microphone, and we'd get it right to you.
President Wyatt, thank you for this time. Tiger Funk with Facilities Management. Since you have roots in facilities management, it's good to know we'll call you if we need help from time to time. Help us understand your philosophy about the role of the buildings on campus and really kind of the physical part of campus and new versus old and replace versus restore and some of those kinds of things, if you would, please.
Well, it's a pretty general question, and you'd have to answer it almost building by building. But let me start with this. I believe that aesthetics are enormously important. I think beauty is uplifting, and cleanliness is a big part of a university. And so I don't think that we can, I don't think I can overstate how important it is that the grounds look beautiful and the buildings are well cared for and that we plant trees and take care of gardens and have art displayed around. I think it lifts the soul, and I think it motivates students and helps them see that there's something really special and is an inspiring thing. It's really a big deal to me. And when I left my last assignment, some of the guys were making fun of me for how important aesthetics were. So it's very, very valuable. I think that it is a far bigger piece of the educational experience, what the campus looks like and how well it's cared, than sometimes we give it credit for. I happen to love old. I love old. I like old that's been cared for and looks nice and doesn't creak too many times. But I love old buildings. I love the heritage and tradition. It's nice that a student can come onto a campus like this and not only be told about its history, but see it there are old buildings. And to know that we care about our institution and we love it, it's valuable to us, and so we're taking care of those buildings. I love new. I love some modern designs. There's a culture, a heritage, and a tradition that you can only see with old and tall trees. So keep working hard. Did that answer your question well enough?
You have a question over here? Okay. Back there and then up to Eric.
Okay. These flags that are flying around in here, Jerry Sherritt had done to represent the first 20 courses that were taught when we were Branch Normal College. And it's great to shout out about our history. And the EDGE program is a great program. But I bet most of the faculty and staff here don't know where these flags came from or what they represent. The EDGE program, a great program, but many students and faculty and staff weren't told what this is going to mean to them as part of their jobs, what their responsibility is to help it carry forward. So anything new that you're going to bring forward or changes that you're going to make, how are you going to communicate to us before we're supposed to do and know something about it?
Thanks for telling me where these banners came from. I've looked at them for the last 20 years of coming into this building, and I wasn't sure what the origin was. This is going to be a slight overstatement. I don't want to get myself in trouble by saying something that isn't accurate, but I don't have enough time to describe it at length. The academic roadmap was created mostly by faculty. This university needs a university-wide master plan. And I wouldn't say master plan, because I don't like the word master plan, but we need to spend more time as an entire university doing strategic planning so that everybody's a part of it. I love the planning part. That's the ultimate piece of shared governance, is when everybody gets to come together, faculty, staff, students, and everybody, and help create a common vision. I think the academic road plan is a wonderful plan. And I salute those that spend so much time in it, and I think it's absolutely terrific. But we've got to get everybody else involved in the same thing so that we know what's happening. And everybody buys in. I met with some facilities today. I was mentioning that I just retired a friend who was a custodian for, 35 years at Snow College, and discovered that he'd worked with over 3,000 students during his 35 years of training them and working with them. And I don't think I certainly didn't appreciate his role in education. And a huge role in talking with students and helping students and encouraging them. And when they did bad on a test, he'd buoy them up and tell them to keep going. And he had more of an influence on students than many people had on students. It has to be a complete shared vision that everyone understands in advance and works through and likes, so that the 20 students who are working for a custodian supervisor, when that student complains about a test, that the custodian understands it as best as possible and can say, just get back there and keep working. This is actually a great idea for you. So anyway, I don't know if that fully answers your question, but I think that the real answer is that we need to, as a whole university, be engaged in strategic conversations and planning. And add to what plans there are in advancement and plans there are in academics and plans there are in facilities, so that it's a team. It's an entire team. I don't know if I've missed anything on that. Please recognize that I'm generalizing a bit. What I'm really trying to say is nothing about where we've been, but more about addressing your question about not knowing some things, and that is that it's a university-wide strategic planning process. We won't start next week.
All right.
Yes.
With the proliferation of online learning, MOOCs, things like that, what ideas do you have to sort of disruptive innovation prevent us from becoming the next Blockbuster, as it were?
I was thinking we just kind of do MOOCs solely. Kidding. I'm not sure that moving into the world of MOOCs whole scale even part scale is SUU's culture. There's a place for institutions to have a culture that is primarily focused in one area or another, and this again is part of the shared governance. So I wouldn't announce today that we're now going to move into MOOCs, because I would never do that, because I don't teach. That's a teaching decision that is made in the academic world. So the extent to which we do online or MOOCs or innovate in teaching, that's something that I hope to have a dialogue with, but that decision will be made by faculty. So I could go sit down and we could have all the faculty come up here and then you could re-ask that question. But what I think draws students here is the personal experience. I think that's what draws students. And I think that particularly in certain graduate programs and undergraduate, but I think in certain programs, the target audience are people who can't move here. And to the extent that we can serve them, I think that's great. And as you know, probably most of the online, at least my experience has been, that most of the online classes that are taken by students on campus. They're taking the online class because they want to fit their schedule rather than I'm just going to be an online student. I've taken a couple online classes. They've been spectacular. I've taken a class about Abraham Lincoln from a professor who was seated in Ashland, Ohio, and there were less than 20 students in the class. We could all see each other on the screen at the same time. Our dialogue was every bit as good as if we were in the same room. My emotion and connectedness with this faculty member is just as good as if I would see him in the hall. I took a class from Yale University over Christmas break a year ago just for fun. And when it was over with, I wanted to stand up and clap my hands. I was so unbelievably impressed. So I think that there are wonderful things we can do. But the heart and soul of this place, I think, is always going to be that hands-on, face-to-face, caring, nurturing environment. That's my sense of it. But I'm going to defer to the faculty to decide how they're going to teach.
It's not really my intent to serve up a big softball that you can hit a home run with, but...
If you do, that's fine. Nobody's been giving me a lot of those.
But I am genuinely curious because Snow College, by all rights, should have shrunk this year. It seems, because you have only a freshman class and a sophomore class, and you should have lost a lot of students, and yet Snow College was the only school, as I understand it, that grew this year. So I was wondering how you explain that.
Yeah, Snow College, the average age is 19.9. And the best estimate is that it's 90% LDS. We were terrified. I think the best answer to the question is that we really focused on the message, a clear, distinguishing message. And then went out and really sold it. And the message was, it was a three-part message. The first part was we had just started receiving national rankings. CNN last year ranked Snow College 6th out of 1,200 two-year schools. Washington Monthly ranked it 9th. The best schools ranked at 8th. And I believe that students are smart, and I think their parents are smart, and they know what they're looking for. And if we say this is a quality school, they don't buy it because it's not a statement that's specifically connected to a place, because every school says they're quality. So we went out and said, we are a top quality institution, and we can prove it because we've been ranked by CNN as the 6th best school in the country. And if you take a composite of all these different rankings, we're going to make a pitch that we're the best college in the country, and we can prove it, and here's the data to show it. And so, yes, you can get a better education here than the University of Utah if you're a freshman. And the cost for tuition fees and housing at Snow is less than the cost of tuition and fees at any university in Utah. And it's a fun place. We don't have a mall, but you don't have to have a mall to have fun. So that was the three-part message, and it worked. And we really spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time. I invested a lot of my own time on that message and working that through because I was tired of laying people off. And it was a huge success for us. It was just fantastic. We didn't have to lay a single person off. Haven't had to lay anybody off for several years because of the growth. Over 5 years, Snow College grew 40.6%. It's an 8% growth per year, and that is a very difficult place to grow because it's a 2-year limited mission. Half the kids graduating from high school are bringing college credit with them. And more and more, the 2-year mission is questioned as students are bringing more of that college with them. So I think if we can grow Snow College, we can grow SUU, and we can grow it with the message of this is a quality place. We just have to spend some time finding out what really is a clear message and deliver it. And then I don't think that any of us necessarily wants to set records on growth. We just want to have good, reasonable, managed growth that keeps us in the game. So the legislature doesn't say, our only initiative is growth, and you're not growing, so leave us alone. Anyway, that's the story. It's the message and how you deliver the message. And there's a whole variety of ways to deliver it. Questions back here?
Yes, President, welcome to SUU. I'm Scott
Thank
Phillips, Executive Director of the Shakespeare Festival here on campus. And as you know, we're nearing the completion of our fundraising for our $35 million Beverly Taylor Sorensen Center for the Arts. And well, we're still a few million short, and we hope that you're going to assist us in that fundraising effort. My question is, once this center is completed, how do you see it interfacing with the rest of the academic campus?
I think that, did this just go out now? Can I answer that question in a broader way? I'm hoping that we can really make an effort to talk about integrating to a higher degree all of the different areas, all the different disciplines. And that would certainly be including Shakespeare. That's not an announcement of something we're doing, but I'm looking forward to talking with faculty about general education and integration of disciplines and connectedness across lines. There's a great deal that's relevant in Shakespeare that everyone can benefit from. So we're excited about that. We're expecting to have a groundbreaking for the center in March. I'm still expecting that to happen on Founders Day. I think the big trucks don't pull in till April, but we're going to start turning dirt in March with small shovels. Big shovels in April. How exciting is that? It is really exciting.
President Wyatt, I'm Ray Grant. At Snow College, you seem to have had this balanced approach about respect for existing faculty members, but also the recognition that by partnering with other institutions, you could animate the life and mind of faculty members as well as student life. I'm thinking specifically about the jazz partnership with the Juilliard School. Might we look to hopefully some of those similar partnerships or ideas here at SUU?
That is the Juilliard partnership was a fun venture that continues. And what was surprising to me was that after several years of Juilliard faculty coming to Snow College to teach, I don't know if all of you understand that, but we have the only partnership that the Juilliard School has in America is with Snow College, the only one in the entire country. And it's primarily with jazz studies, but it's expanded to theater and dance to some degree. But what I found in that partnership is that the students were having an enormously fun experience. Enormously fun. And when you've got the artistic director of jazz studies at the Juilliard School on our campus multiple times a year, sitting down with musicians and helping them think through how they can perform better, it's just really kind of fun. And then the statement that makes of quality helped every department, even though some felt jealousy about it, helped every department. I would love to see, I tried to explore a partnership with West Point in history until I discovered that, oh wow, this is going live, isn't it? Maybe the quality of the history instruction isn't as good as what I'd hoped. But those kinds of partnerships with very prestigious places out of state provide a statement of quality for the institution and a fun experience for the students. And we had a whole boatload of faculty members and graduate students from Juilliard on campus interacting with students and motivating them, inspiring them. And we had a transfer student that transferred from Snow to Juilliard in drums. I'm Facebook friends with him, and we continually hear how he's doing and how fun of a time he's having. And what I would say on that is that I would love to help any department with any kind of partnership or any kind of fun experience. You describe it. If you've got wonderful ideas that you think I can be helpful in, please tell me. I had another department come and say, I want a Juilliard in my department. And my answer was, I can't give you one. You have to do that. Because I can't go to Stanford and talk some physicist into making a partnership with another institution. That's a faculty-to-faculty deal. But it's one of those faculty-to-faculty deals that you probably need some administrative support or help. And I want to be helpful. I really want to be helpful.
Hi, Scott. I'm Jim Ayton from English. There's certain very conservative elements in Cedar City who have been opposed to having Saudi students in the community. And there's a perception among some faculty and staff that you were brought in to reverse that trend. Can you convince me and this audience that that's not the case and that your administration will continue to recruit people, students from the Middle East and internationally in general?
No one has asked me to reduce the Saudi population. No one has asked me or suggested that we should reduce international students. No one has ever suggested that to me. I am committed to international student experiences. In fact, I've been on recruiting trips that were strictly recruiting trips. Last summer I went to the central part of Congo, trying to forge a relationship with the Congolese government and students there in a university in Congo that desperately needs somebody to help them out. And have brought a number of students from Congo to Utah to study, and it's been a fun experience for me. I have a variety of international students that are friends of mine at Snow College. We go to authentic restaurants in Salt Lake to try to help them feel not so far from home. I could list a bunch of initiatives and personal investments that I've made in international students there, and we've continued to grow that population. Let me provide a little context, though, that may be where you might have heard something about my feelings about that. I have nothing against Saudi students. I think that having them here is a neat experience for them and a good experience for us. When I was a student at Utah State University, we had hundreds of students from Iran, hundreds and hundreds. And I remember during that revolution, when the Shah was thrown out and Khomeini came in, that all of a sudden, overnight, there were no Iranian students anymore. And if you add up the tuition dollars that came from those Iranian students to Utah State University, to have them disappear overnight was a huge blow financially to the institution. Snow College had a similar experience 15 years ago. It was prior to my being there. They had about 250, I'm told, had about 250 Japanese students. And then some policy changed in Japan, and that number dropped from 250 down to almost nothing. And if you were to take the tuition generated from these international students, times it out by the number of students, you start to realize how dependent we are on their tuition. I believe that the best kind of international student program is a program that draws students in equal numbers as much as possible from different regions around the world. And I'll be encouraging not a reduction in the number of international students, but an expansion of the number of international students. But I will encourage that to be drawing from a more broad global world for two reasons. One, what I've just tried to illustrate, financially it's a better decision to not put all of your investments in one account or a huge percentage. Make it more of a broad portfolio. That's the financial side. On the academic side and the cultural experience, global engagement side, I think our students get a fabulous experience if they can engage with students from Africa and from Europe and from Asia and from the Middle East and from Canada and Mexico and Central America and all these places. That's my feelings about it. I would love to see this university from my perspective. We'll have conversations about this. You may have different perspectives. We can come to a consensus on where we ought to land. I think the Smart Growth Initiative suggests 5% of the student body international. I frankly think that it'd be great if we had more than 5% from a broad spectrum. In fact, international students, Snow College was overly heavily based on Asian students. And even the students really want to come to a university that's global, not just their country in America. So the broader we can make it, the better the educational experience and the more stable the institution's finances are. Anyway, does that answer the question well enough? We have a Fulbright scholar we have a Muslim Fulbright scholar at Snow College right now from Egypt. My wife Kathy and I had dinner with the Saudi students at Snow College. They're nice students. We've had a good experience with them.
Hi, my name is Mark Demon. This is just kind of a follow-up question to the last one, but what are your thoughts on helping make our community a more welcoming, inviting place for people from different cultures that might not be a part of the normal Utah culture, to help kind of with retention, both staff and students?
I think the community was kind of shocked by the dramatic increase in Saudi students. I think we can just work through all this. But these international students are coming here not just simply to come to America to study. They're coming to Southern Utah University. And they're coming to Cedar City. And I think there's something in this environment and the people here that they can benefit from. When I travel to foreign countries, it's fun to do the tourist stops. But what's really meaningful is engaging with people from that country. And I think we need to get some of these international students out on a ranch with some cows. And hiking and participating with members of the community. And I think if the community members could somehow or another, and I'm not sure exactly how to do it, and even if I had an idea, I wouldn't throw it out here because I think that's something we need to talk about. But I think that there's got to be some nice ways that this university blesses the lives of the people in southern Utah who live here and have made this their home. And that extends beyond the normal things we think about. I think that it includes giving the people in the community a bit of a global look at the world. We can do a great service by helping connect some of our international students with community members. Help me think through how we can do that well. But I think that's part of the answer. We're always a little bit nervous about people that we don't understand, and we can help bridge that gap. One of my favorite international students, when I was attending Utah State as an undergraduate student, his name was Ali, and he was from Iran, and he was so nice to me. We had a nice relationship. Before meeting him, I was scared of Iran. Maybe I am today. Not the Iranian people. Not the Iranian people. Every single person that I've met from Iran, I've liked. Just really nice people. Same with Saudi Arabia. Questions?
We'll stick with the international theme for at least just one more. You've traveled internationally, sounds like quite a bit, and I'm curious what you would say to a student who might come to you and say, I think I would like to study abroad, but I can't afford it, or I'm afraid. Based on your experiences, how would you encourage a student to study abroad? What would you say to them?
There is a bit of a pragmatic element to me. So there's probably two things that I would say. And last night, in talking with the journalist students in my interview, we kind of got on this topic a little bit. And one of the things that I challenged all of those students to do was to pick out an international student. Pick a student who looks lonely or far from home or needs a friend or from a country you know nothing about or a country that you do know something about, and make them your friend. They would absolutely love it, and do it on a deeper level than what it was for me. I mean, I had friends from different parts of the world when I was a college student, but I didn't have conversations with them about, tell me about your life. Tell me how you grew up, your family, where you went to school, work. What do people do in your community? Where are you from? Here's a map. Where do you live? What do you guys do for vacations? Do you have vacations? And have meaningful conversations that are cultural conversations, not just let's go bowling together and have a hamburger and then go home. And so I challenge those students, and I will continue to do that, and maybe you can all help me in the same thing. But if we can challenge our own local students to find an international student and make that international student a friend and follow through with them as a friend through their experience at the university, they're going to have an amazing time. And then keep that that person as a friend throughout as long of your life as you possibly can. Stay in contact. What an enormously wonderful opportunity. And most of these international students are dying for a local friend. They're dying for one. All we have to do is make half of an effort and get over their shyness, which some of them have, some don't, but some do. So that would be my first response, is that if you genuinely can afford it, you can have a bit of the global experience here, and you ought to do it. But the second thing is, you're only young once. You should go. You talk about a wonderful, if there was a way that we could afford it, I mean, if you're just dreaming, I think dreams are fun, as long as you don't spend your whole life in them. But if we could require every student that graduates from here to have an international experience, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something to put on a resume? That I was brainstorming, and again, this is not an announcement, and this is not something that we would do. But I found that when you throw out ideas, that bad ideas are followed by bad ideas, and they're followed by bad ideas, and then a good one pops up. I have a file cabinet full of bad ideas, and then a couple drawers that have some nice ideas. So wouldn't it be neat if we could raise tuition to the point that over 4 years, that raised portion, 8 semesters worth, would pay for an international experience. If you drop out, you don't get it. But if you complete, you get the money back in the form of you're going on an international experience. Obviously, we can't afford to do that probably, but then everyone has some kind of an experience. Anyway, that'd be kind of a fun thing. I'm in the weeds, sorry. But what I would say is that a student that's thinking about it, that they need to find a way to make it happen. They need to find a way to make it happen. The education that I've received from walking across an unbelievable, undescribable part of Central Africa in the poorest part of the most poor country in the world has a huge impact on my view of the world. And it's great. So I've encouraged and will continue to encourage, and I hope you continue to encourage students to take a risk. A financial risk when they're young and a cultural risk. It'll be worth it. Anyway. Anything else? This has gone past 50 minutes, which is our normal stop time, right?
That's okay, though. I'd just like to ask you what role do you feel athletics plays in the university? Since we're a D1 school, what's your view of athletics? How important are they to the whole health of the university?
Well, speaking as a non-athlete, by the way, we've been talking for a while. I won't consider it rude. I don't have somebody taking notes. If you need to leave, please feel comfortable, and I won't interpret that as I've just said something that offended you, or that you're bored with what I'm saying. When I tried out for the football team. And it was a big high school, and the coach lined us all up from the tallest to the shortest, counted down the number of players he needed, drew the line, told the tall guys to suit up, told the short guys to go join the chess team, which is what I did. And that's where I stayed, sadly enough. I can't play any sports well. And I don't normally spend a lot of time following athletics. I've made this confession to Ken Beezer already. But I think that athletics at a university, particularly a university in a rural setting where 82% of the freshman class have to move here, we have to provide them with the full university experience that's academically rigorous and fun. And there's a great deal that can be learned in athletics. both participating and watching. It's part of the college life. So I'm very supportive, extremely supportive. I'll support the philosophy department because I got a bachelor's degree in philosophy, and I'll also support athletics even though I can't hit a golf ball in one direction twice in a row. Big deal, big deal. I think that athletics is more important at SUU than it is at the University of Utah. 67% of the freshman class at the University of Utah live in Salt Lake County. It's the school they're going to, regardless of whether there's a student life or not. And they're going to drive to class, and they're going to drive home, and drive to class, and drive home. And here, we have to convince people to move and to live here. And in order to succeed, we have to have extracurricular and co-curricular and the whole life. Anyway, that's my sense of it. And I hit a chord here, which is yanking this a little bit. Anyway. I'm glad we're in the Big Sky Conference.
Before you turn him loose to come out and join you in the reception, anybody who wants to know where he is and what he's doing for the next 98 of the 100-day tour, it's an easy URL, suu.edu/100days. So you can follow him there and see every place he stops along the tour. You can submit your comments and questions directly to the president from that site and see everything he's doing for the next 98 days.
It's not going to be a transcript. So we're trying to find a balance in letting you know what I'm doing, but also maintaining some degree of sensitivity to you all. So if for some reason we're having a conversation and somebody shows up with a camera, it's because Dialee knows my schedule, and someone came in and said, I need to take a picture today, where's he at? And they show up, and if you don't want your picture taken, just say, can we pass? And that is perfectly fine. And we're not going to go back and write up notes that we publish on the blog if you happen to say, can I just tell you something I really think you need to know? So we're going to draw broad brushstrokes on the blog, but use it as an opportunity to promote excellence here and to kind of brag in a broader way about what a great place this is. So that's 50% of the reason for it, is to brag. The other half of it is so that we can kind of connect. Anyway, anything else at all? Any other questions? Cool. Okay. Oh, you might find this, every once in a while you'll look at a suit that I'm wearing and say, my goodness, did he go home and take a nap? Because it looks a little wrinkly. The answer is, yeah, I take naps all day long. Actually, I don't know why I'm telling you this. But I have an allergy to wool. I can't wear wool suits. It just knocks me out. So this suit happens to be linen. And if you know what linen is wrinkly. It's just always wrinkly. So I'm the only guy I know that irons my suits in the morning. It's kind of annoying. But I have a linen suit and cotton suits, and I have a bamboo suit. It's really cool. Only because I can't wear wool. And you know how hard it is to find a suit that's not wool? It's really tough. So I'm allergic to dairy and chocolate. So if for some reason you're just feeling like you'd like to do something particularly nice to me, and you bring a bag of chocolates over, you've done something really nice to my wife. I will be gracious and thankful. I will consider the gift a gift, and you'll never offend me about anything like that, but it's a nice, sweet gift to my wife and daughter. So for some reason or another, I'm allergic to dairy and allergic to wool and chocolate. And funny, isn't it? few Polands, but I'm able to survive. Just don't worry. It's not contagious. At least I don't think it is. My children think it's contagious because they're starting to get it, but I don't think it's really contagious. Let me say one last little comment. There's a number of ways that we can talk about what a good school this is. I think we need to be more open about that. I think we need to be more direct about that. I don't think we need to be shy about walking up to the Wasatch Front and saying, if you attend Southern Utah University, your chances of getting into medical school are better than if you go to any other university in Utah. I don't think we should be shy about that. In fact, I think we should be saying those kinds of things with data that people can see. If we can tell the world that we have Shakespeare here, it makes a statement of quality that's hard for people to argue with. And if we can tell the world that your chances of getting into pharmacy school, your chances of getting into medical school are better here than anywhere else, that doesn't just elevate the sciences. That elevates the entire university because it's a statement of quality of the place, not just one department. And I think that we need to start being more direct and honest about why people would want to come here. So that's one of the challenges that I'm throwing out. And if you've got great data about precisely why, please send it in to us so that we can start thinking about how to brand this school in a way that's clear. Quality means what? Anyway, anything else? Thank you so much. You've all been so kind so far. And over this 100-day listening tour, I'm anticipating that we'll have a lot of very fun discussions, one-on-one, small groups, larger forums. I'm hoping that you feel comfortable having some spirited discussions, some direct ones, some challenging ones. That's the only way that it's going to matter, is if it's meaningful. Thank you very much. Anything else? We're done. Okay, thanks.